afternoon and namaste everyone and welcome to Stride Forward 2025. Can we have a big round of applause? I'm Pooja Kef and I'm truly honored to be your host for today's summit. As far as the eye can see, this is truly a global gathering of extraordinary minds. Before anything else, a big round of applause for all of you, everyone in this room. We have a great day lined up ahead. So, without further ado, we're gonna kickstart. So, our first conversation, ladies and gentlemen, dives into the founders navigating their journey to 5,000 crore, and in the process, of course, building ultra resistant unicorns that are powering India's global momentum. Now, these are companies, they are ventures that have charted bold frontiers and they are carving new paths to drive impact in their respective realms, and each of them facing unique capital, talent, and global expansion challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, our first panelist today is someone who has turned early hardships and personal sacrifices into one of India's most trusted used car platforms, now valued at over 14,000 crore. You know who I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Neeraj Singh, founder and CEO, Spinny. Our next panelist is someone who's left a conventional corporate path to solve inefficiencies in construction supply chain, scaling infra.market into a 25,000 crore platform, redefining B2B procurement. Could we please have on stage Souvik Sengupta, co-founder and CEO, infra.market. Welcome. And now, a gentleman who's transformed raw material procurement with a frugal, high-trust model. Today, he's leading a 24,000 crore enterprise poised for the public markets. Ashish Mohapatra, co-founder and CEO of Business. And finally, we have Gaurav Agarwal, co-founder 1MG. He, ladies and gentlemen, has reimagined healthcare by shifting from transactions to tech-powered interventions, building an 11,000 crore platform at the forefront of personalized predictive care. And the host of Stride Forward, Ishpreet himself, will be moderating this one. Let's have a big round of applause for all our esteemed panelists.
Luckily, I know most of them for good years. Ashish, I met in 2015 when he had Whipple, a first floor going into Whipple Agoda Mall, right, which still exists, right? And Souvik, I met 4 years back, 3.5, 4 years back, amongst the early lenders to them. Neeraj, we came with a proposition and met him 4 years back. Gaurav is something which we are interacting recently with, but known their journey literally for 4 to 5 years. So we'll be very keen to build this dialogue around ultra unicorns. First of all, what is ultra unicorns? So all of them, while she mentioned some numbers, I think Ashish numbers was off. I think it might be around 35, 40,000 crores. And I'm very keen to do this conversation in Hindi. But the problem is that we have some international guests as well. So I'll try to make sure it's as English as possible. But the first question, which is kind of open, if you just want to, while summarizing your business, if you just want to tell what is, as of now, gone into building that unicorn tag. And since unicorn tag has certain expectations, how that has changed your life in terms of that heaviness of a word called unicorn, because I know you've gone much beyond that and we'll speak about what it takes to create beyond that. But how you have taken that word as and what it means for you.
If I look at what unicorn means today, I think my daughter is more fond of the word unicorn than I am. So I must be honest that just before coming in, five of us were chatting and we kind of had consensus around this one phrase, which meant that unicorn in 2021 really sounded nice. Or maybe early 2022, it sounded nice. But coming into 22, 23, 24, now 25, it sounds like a gali.
Abuse.
For your international abuse. Right? I must tell you, if you have the option, don't be a unicorn. It is supposed to be a mythical animal. Let it stay a myth, because the pressures that come on you from all kinds of people, including everyone that you can think about, just goes up manifold. It's like a treadmill which kind of speeds up with every succeeding period, and a treadmill that gets more and more inclined with every succeeding period. The burden just keeps going up. The challenges we'll talk about, because Ishpreet said that we want to talk about problems. I promised him that if we talk about problems of unicorns, we will go on till midnight.
Yes. Souvik, please.
I don't know if I've never sort of felt extra pressure the day you turn. I don't think it's a moment, but I think, see, I think any organization which grows and will go through various phases, and the goalpost seems to keep changing. And sometimes you don't know what you're building for in the next phase. I mean, someday you're building for growth, someday you're building for EBITDA profitability, sometimes it's cash flows. And sadly, there are multiple stakeholders to this organization who keep changing. The employees who are part of your growth cycle may not find space when you're trying to build a business which starts generating cash flows and you want to go public in a year or two. I mean, and those are some hard decisions you have to take. And I think the responsibility, the difference is once you're a unicorn, I think while internally it may not matter a lot as a founder, I think the way the external world perceives you, there's an extra responsibility that you seem to have to answer to. All of these tags of being a unicorn or not is is superseded by the fact that you have to take certain hard decisions to, as an organization, to bring stability in an organization. You can't. I think the risk of failure and the fear of failure increases when you have a lot more to lose, right? So I think once you're a unicorn and you're like, okay, now I have to ensure that if there is a cyclical issue in the industry, I need to cut my team. I need to answer to multiple stakeholders. But I think a lot of those decisions are extremely hard as a founder. That defines whether you're building for longevity. And I think those decisions become extremely complex when you have the spotlight on you. I think the spotlight doesn't go away once you sort of take that tag on you. I think that's how I'll sort of.
Dheeraj?
I've seen people like celebrating their unicorn status, doing parties, doing social media posts and all, and I have nothing against them. But we have never called ourselves unicorn, right? You cannot find even a single mention, single social media post, any kind of PR. Never. Ecosystem may call you unicorn, media may call you unicorn, but we have never done that, right? For us, like key metrics, like have been like, what is the like customer NPS, what is the growth rate, what are the like gross margin levels, what is the top line, bottom line, very recently now we have started thinking in terms of market share in like various respective markets. So that is how we operate. And as you keep growing, like in 2019, our team size was like less than 100 people, early 2019. Now we are like close to 6,000 people. So the team or the like management team managing a 100-member team versus a management team managing a 500-member team versus managing a team of like thousands of people. So you need to keep evolving, right? So and priorities, challenges. So you have to adapt to like new requirements, new challenges, and that is how it was supposed to be, because we started to keep growing. So there is nothing unexpected or nothing new. This is how it was supposed to be, and we are glad that it is like turning out like this.
Gaurav?
Yeah, I think, again, since the time it happened, or whatever happened, I think this is the first time we are even talking about us being unicorns or otherwise. I think the only thing that changed was you somehow suddenly maybe start to get more respect than you would get otherwise. You start to get invited to more panels. At home, though, you don't get respect regardless. But maybe outside, you're no longer a struggling entrepreneur, even though you are. But it changes. I think you get
We'll
invited.
get
to
into
more,
you are.
and I think you get invited to more panels. I think more wealth managers write to you because they suddenly feel that you have wealth, and your answer remains the same. Ki, unfortunately, I still have no money. So yeah, nothing changes, and I absolutely echo what Neeraj and Ashish have said, that we don't talk about it internally at all. Our focus is on value, focus is on profitability, focus is on NPS, market share, etc. We don't talk about valuation at all.
So interestingly, we didn't had a pre-panel. Typically, you're supposed to have a pre-panel. We just got together like 5 minutes prior, and he said, "This is what we'll speak about. Random thoughts about what it takes and what people are thinking about you and what we should address." Coming back now, how the scenario changes when you. I remember the first discussion we've had. Curious how the business will build. You and Ruchi was always hustling in terms of understanding how to build a fintech business embedded with construction, create a financing layer, a lot of curiosity around you. How that curiosity changes when you reach this level, and what kind of thoughts now that, okay, I have to become a 10, $15 billion company. So what kind of thought process of founders have to go through? you want to elaborate with the team thoughts or other thoughts open towards it?
No, I will reminisce those days. I think Ishpreet, this is 2015, maybe 16, was a very tough guy to please. The way I know Ishpreet is we tried to raise, I think, 10 crores from him when he was back at Yes Bank. He took 4 to 5 months and did not give us an offer. So I hope it has changed in Stride. So thoughts have actually, it is a good segue to how thoughts have.
I didn't have the ultimate control. That's why it happened.
Yeah. So, yeah, thoughts have changed. Yeah, thoughts have changed on many dimensions. I'll give you the top three. I think the first thing that has changed is the early days were just about survival. How do we really stand up? Because the sector that I come from is a widely known sector. It's the same sector that Souvik is in. So how do you really stand out? How to do something different?
Even B2B as a word, to become a large company, people never perceive B2B
Never
to be a,
perceived so.
right?
Yeah. So how do you prove yourself? Can you survive another year or so? How do you keep the good guys with you? It was purely about survival. Those kind of questions used to kind of cross. How to raise capital, whether equity or debt. How to cut down the burn. How to start making money, which actually shows up. So those were the kind of questions, right? I think the first change on this dimension is to say that how do you really grow at scale, and that's a very different challenge. So when you are surviving, growth is easy to come because of the scale effect and stuff like that, right? It can go away as well, but if it comes, it really comes. 0 to 1 is a growth of infinity, but 1 to 2, you're adding the same 1, but it's a growth of 100%. 2 to 3, it's down to 50%, right? So now the big question is, how do we grow from here? May not be in value. Frankly, in our daily words,
Isn't there pressure about the value as well? Because the fact is, you have
Not
always
really.
promised returns to an incoming investor stating that you have to get 3x. So
Yeah.
that would be running in back of your mind.
Yes, it runs in your parallel, but the booby trap is the following: that the moment you start thinking about value only, you will never be able to deliver value. So somewhere in our journeys, I'm pretty sure it happened to all of us, and I can tell you that it happened very early for us. Somewhere in our journey, we realized that if we chase valuation, you will never create value. So the moment you start chasing something else, which is much more core to our business, is when you actually deliver
That's
the valuation.
profitability?
Huh?
Profitability?
But in our case, it was profitability, but then we
What's the
realized
last
that,
year number, if you financial year profit?
meaning PAT, last year we were at about 690 crores of PAT.
So
This
guys,
is about
$100 million of PAT in order to justify.
This is 24, so 25 will come.
Yeah, I thought you said 25.
No, 25 though. Audited results are not out yet. So
But almost $100 million of PAT, right? So we are talking about then he doing backward calculation of justifying what is the profit multiple because you're
one that. But more importantly, we realized into our journey that, as I think Souvik touched upon it, that more than PAT, cash flows are more important because you need cash flows to run your business, right? At the end of the day, PAT is a metric which is good to have. It shows up on the balance sheet, but it doesn't really fund your business. It can get immersed in working capital investments and stuff like that, right? Yeah. So I think the questions have changed from largely being around survival to thinking about metrics of how do you grow at scale, how do you, because you need to keep your health alive. So there are certain metrics that you can't give away. They could be maintaining a a very decent level of market share and stuff like that. So I think the questions have significantly changed on these dimensions. Happy to take other comments.
And
maybe I can
no, I'll get others in just to be on the same point. Since you're a very different business, and that problem Shovik also has. So you're a very different business. You're not a single sector business. Okay, you're a cement company or you're a steel company. You're a platform which is a combination of a lot of products.
Right.
Right. So how do you justify? Because there might not be even a benchmark of a public multiple. So how do you justify that and say I'll always be at a different multiple, which is true for say a Zomato today. Right? Their price to earnings is very different than a typical listed company.
From a valuation perspective.
From a value perspective as well.
Yeah,
and I'll come to talent later. There's another part. But just to being on the value and the enterprise change in the thoughts.
Yeah. See, fundamentally, all of us have tried to create something deep in sectors that have been there since ages, right? You take 1mg, if they're looking at pharmacies or distribution or diagnostic chains, they have existed in India for close to about 40, 50 years. I think the first established chain came in the 70s, for example, right? We are in traditional sectors. I think many will be in a largely newer sector. So we all have the same problem. The track that we have taken is to go back to first principles and say that there are fundamental determinants of value. And fundamental determinants of value are twofold. One is return on capital employed, and the second is the growth of what you are delivering to the organization. It could be cash flows at best. If not, then maybe PAT. If not PAT, then maybe revenue, stuff like that, right? So growth plus return on capital employed. And because I'm sure you know the rule, right? Everybody says that ROC plus growth. If you are 40, then you're a platinum stage company. I was reading somewhere that there are only 17 companies in the globe that for the last 5 years have demonstrated a ROC plus growth of profits of 40. So you go back to these kind of principles and you try to demonstrate that you actually stand up on those two and then probably compute value from that.
I always like your analogies. Yeah, Shovik, you want to come in terms of just amplifying the thought?
No, I agree. I think the fundamental, I agree with Ashish on ROCE growth, but I also feel like you can't chase what you think will create value or valuation, in the sense that every person who looks at it will be evaluating you from different points of view. A public market investor may value free cash flow, may value ROCE, may value CAGR on free cash flow. Early venture fund may value something else. And what is very true is that, and I think we are at that stage, I think why this makes it very complex is that we're at a stage where we are in between. We are neither there nor here. So we are interacting with both. And we have to hence build for what makes sense to us. Because if you start building for what makes sense to them, then that market is going to change very quickly for you. Like we've pitched to debt investors who are public market investors, we've pitched to equity investor, public market investors, and we pitched to private equity investors. One guy is looking at growth, one guy is looking at FCF because they are debt investors and want their capital back. Their priorities are different. And one guy is looking at how you're going to grow and create value for them or valuation for them, what you're looking at, right? I think eventually what you have to understand is what are you trying to build. And if you want to eventually build an organization that makes a substantial market share in, say, we are trying to build in the building material platform, and we have to understand what makes sense for us. For us, what makes sense is, say, cash flow from operations. It's a metric which track very closely. Then what is the CFO we are making and how is the CFO growing compared to our EBITDA and PAT? And what is the ratio of that and and that takes working capital into consideration. So we are okay if we are free cash flow negative, if we keep putting money in new capex for growth, if it makes sense for us, if the ROCs are good. That may not make sense to a debt investor. It may make sense to a growth investor. But eventually we have to figure out metrics which make sense to us. Because we'll never, it's impossible in a situation that I am in, or maybe even Ashish is not, multiple of us are in, we're talking to multiple investors in multiple stages. And they're all looking at different things. So it can get crazy in that sense if I try to please everyone. So I have to figure out what makes sense to me. For what makes sense to me right now is for every rupee I spend, what do my operating business makes? And I'm okay putting equity or new growth capital into.
So it's like a typical public markets listed thought already.
Maybe not. Maybe public market listed thought like a large public market company in paint or cement may look at free cash flows, for instance, because they have already done their capex cycles. So someone may come and say, oh, why should you get valued? Because a large cement company is getting valued this way, because they have done their capex cycle for 20 years and now are looking at growth on that capex cycle. They are building hardly any incremental capex. But I am building for the next decade, right? I am putting in capex today because I can see 10 years of growth in certain categories. So I may say, look, I will be CFO positive, but my capex will keep going. I'll be net free cash flow never positive. Because I'm going to keep putting money on growth, but I believe in my growth story. So I think you have to believe in yours, because eventually I have seen the lens with which investors look at it can change very quickly. And if you're building for them, then it's a crazy outcome.
So it's your lens all the way.
It
and
has
the
to be your
investors-
lens. You have to filter it out for multiple stakeholders, but it has to be your lens, and eventually you have to get them to understand what you're looking at. And if that makes sense for them, they'll partner. See, there are hundreds of investors out there. Some will partner, some will not. So I think
Makes
it's very
sense.
clear.
Makes Neeraj and Gaurav, I'll bring you in. So being on the same lines, how the things changed with this, the thought process of pitching business or going through that challenges has changed post that status. And second, if you both are more consumer facing from a perspective, B2B versus consumer. Right? So what's the challenge there?
There will be like all kinds of people out there. Few will like you and some will not like you. So it's not possible to like please everybody, right? So I think it's better to like focus on the business, what's right for the business. And of course, at different stages of the business, the priorities will be different. And that is how we try to, navigate. So, and yeah, and like if you're a B2C business, then like the level of like scrutiny is very high, right? And you have to maintain certain kind of like brand positioning, brand strength, or even a like single customer escalation like has a potential to derail the company, right? So you need to be like really conscious about that.
I've always told you I really like your Sachin Tendulkar ad, right? The way it's been done. In fact,
Just before this panel, Ashish was saying कि यार वो 2021 वाला ad कब तक चलाते रहोगे?
just like that song also, if you notice.
Yeah, so basically, you have to the business we are into, right? So car buying in India is like still very aspirational, very special for people. It's not like commodity like Europe or US, right? So it's a kind of stepping stone for people. It's a very important purchase. So we believe that we relate with those emotions, and we are trying our best to help them with that kind of transaction and help people fulfill their aspirations. So and to do that, we are making certain promises, and to deliver on those promises, you need to build certain capabilities first that allows you to deliver on those promises, and then you keep delivering with the time consistently, market by market, and then you build a proven track record, and then only customers will start rallying behind you. For this kind of purchase, nobody is going to be swayed by your marketing or maybe by your discounting, right? It's a like very special purchase. At the same time, it's also about safety and well-being of the family. What happens if the car catches fire on the road? You really need to build a solid brand equity, and that brand equity won't be built just by marketing, right? So it's a like reference plus ref check category. Like positive experience will bring more customers. By marketing, more people will get to know
How's
about
that
you.
changed post being larger company than what you were day
You
one?
know, the level of scrutiny and the customer level, the level of customer expectation keeps going up, right? When you are like a newbie, then customers like understands that कि okay कोई नया आया है, and they will have a very limited expectation, and it will be much easier to meet their expectations. But as you keep scaling, as you keep growing, and as your media visibility also increases, your market share also increases. With the time, customer expectations also keeps going up. So you have to keep getting better at it. Even if you are able to maintain your execution, even if you are able to maintain your customer experience, your deliverables, that is also not enough, right? If you are like, if you are deteriorating, then of course nobody can save you. But you don't have to just maintain, you have to keep improving, because the customer expectation is going up with
Your
time.
focus as a larger company will be to invest in those segments more all the time, being customer facing.
There is no other way. There is no other way, right? So I'll give you like the transaction funnel and the top funnel, like completely do two different things, right? And at this size of our business, I think the room to expand the top funnel is very limited, right? From the same top funnel, you have to keep mining more and more transactions. So there is no other way to grow than like keep investing more and more in customer experience.
Yes, Gaurav.
First and foremost, I think that, the unicorn tag or whatever it is, it's an overnight thing, right? It doesn't really change anything. As you scale bigger, I think automatically a lot of things start to change. Let's say as step functions, as you go from, let's say, a small stage company where it was all about survival to a large company today. When we become a large company, and consumer businesses are very different because you can build value for the investor, and everyone here is absolutely right. And I remember very clearly that for us, investors either asked us to grow too fast when everyone was growing like crazy, or 6 months later said, "Why are you not profitable already?" And we learned very early in the journey, yeah, what the hell is going on? Like 3 months back, I was supposed to grow 200%, and I was only growing 100%. And today, I should have been profitable already, and I'm already burning like less cash than everyone else. So we realized that this is not the way. And look, we were naive as founders then as well. For consumer businesses, I feel there are some golden rules to consumer. What is the value that you're delivering to a consumer? And that value shows in, let's say, the consumer metrics that you track. Your NPS, for instance, one of our services, diagnostics, has an NPS of 75. And we haven't gone down. This is one of the highest NPSs that you can, like healthcare companies in India have NPSs either negative or sub 20s. We are at an NPS of 75 consistently for the last few years, and we only go up. So a lot of the focus shifts to delivering better quality consumer experience because that becomes the customer expectation and norm. I think the second thing that happens is that as a business becomes larger, you start to think of, we all start with, so for instance, 1MG started as an online first business, right? Pharmacy, online order, deliver at home, diagnostics, online order, home collection. And you start to say, okay, what's the resilience in my business? Should I be an online only platform, or should I think about it differently? So today, for instance, 1MG wants to be an omni-channel healthcare platform, right? Because consumer needs healthcare wherever they are. They don't care whether it's online or offline. So we want to be everywhere that you are, right? Today we have around 150 retail stores, growing at the rate of like 400 retail stores every year. And we are using those stores to deliver, let's say, diagnostics next to your home, or 20, 25-minute pharmacy delivery to your home in Gurgaon. So that customer experience is changing, and we are the ones leading it, right? So that innovation leadership aspect doesn't change. I think the second thing that happens is that as you become bigger, you become more audacious, where a big part of us and our organization now says, okay, what are problems that only a 1MG can solve? Because we are still not old, right? We are still not very old. We are still like, we have this innovative spirit in us. We are saying, okay, why can't we build the best quality XYZ out of India? Why can't we lead, let's say, the globe in the kind of healthcare that's available at home, right? And these then become organizational motivators to say, and just before this panel, I was at a research institute because we want to figure out why can't we do groundbreaking research using 1MG facilities, our data, our consumers, and let's say one of India's research institutes. Like, why can't we be the ones? Why can't we drive longevity out of India? We have so many people. Everyone is getting old. We have so much data. If you think about healthcare, there's almost no country in the world where you can get tests collected in the next hour and reports delivered in the next 4 hours. Ask anyone who's traveling from abroad. They'll probably have to wait for 24 hours to get an appointment, have to go to a center, get a report delivered, and that report's not even going to be very good looking, will not track their longitudinal data. So in many ways, we have just leapfrogged the experience because we didn't have any legacy. And so part of us now wants to feel like, we are good, we are not idiots. How can we build something that is groundbreaking out of here? And I think that audaciousness changes as you become bigger, as you get more confidence.
So that's actually
Can I add one thing just to borrow from Gaurav's point, and this is to Gaurav, and three of us have common investor. He's actually in the crowd, Deep from Tiger Global. And my own personal experience, I was a private equity investor before this. It was always told, and it has significantly changed. You will see the difference when I speak about it. I was always told that, investing in a company is like a marriage. You need to really be happy. I think in the early days, like in the early marriage, we used to fight with the investor a lot, debate a lot. But then as you get married, and all of us are significantly married out here, you realize that as a good spouse, you just need to listen. Maybe nod, never utter a word. That's a significant change, I think, just on the
he's being audacious.
But please be audacious outside of the marriage. Outside of the marriage, yeah.
Don't tell your partner about it.
Yeah, don't tell your partner.
Great. So one thing which is very clear, at least in terms of my experience of being in this ecosystem, that talent makes or breaks the company. So first phase of your journey, you hired a different kind of talent. You had co-founders. You brought in talent who are aspirational, hustling around with you, trying to work 24/7. And now this part or juncture of the businesses, how it changes, how you're able to retain those kind of talent, maybe co-founders, how you're able to attract talent which you want, and what is the motivation for them to come in, right? So if you just describe on your experiences quickly on that, how that's gone about it, I think it will be a good idea for everyone.
So in our case, it was fairly straightforward. I have been a true believer, at least in the philosophy that you need to have homegrown, ingrown talent. I at least spent my time, bulk of my professional time in organizations that truly believed in that, whether it was ITC, McKinsey and stuff. They used to always, pick people who were freshers. So in our early days, I think 90% of our talent, I would say up until we were a 7-year-old company, was largely a fresher crowd. If not directly a fresher, freshers who will bring in people who are unhappy in the organizations that they have kind of landed up.
Ashish, you also had tier 2 MBAs somewhere in between.
All of them were tier 2 MBAs.
Like never tier 1 MBAs, right?
No, never tier 1 MBAs, because tier 1 MBAs are, they will always look for a job. So tier 2 MBAs want to get into tier 1. They are the hungrier of the lot. And I used to proudly say during those 5-7 years that I'm 40 and I'm the oldest guy in the company. So yeah, it was a tag that I really, really was very proud of. Now it is not the case. I think there are a few people older than me. I'm still likely in the top 10, if not 20.
So you were very clear that you want to have younger, hustling
Younger,
talent,
hungrier,
tier 2 MBA.
Younger, hungrier, malleable talent, you can only find them in tier 2 MBA. Because if you take a tier 2 grad school, he will like to do his MBA. If you take a tier 2 MBA, he has 3 things which you can fulfill and then he'll be loyal for life. One is a car, second is a house, and third, hopefully, is medical expenses covered for his parents. Yeah, I made this up. I was really looking at you and thinking, how do I really customize it
How
for
do I
you?
justify it?
But it just struck me. Yeah. So you give them these 3 and they're stuck with you for life. I think we realize about 7 to 8 years old into a journey that there are things that we are trying to do which have been solved forever in the world, right? They could be with respect to finance, it could be with respect to engineering. When we especially started building our own private labels, borrowing from the experiences of my friend Souvik, he runs Hella Infra, which is largely private labels. Today we are about 30% private labels. Back then, I think about 5 years back, we were 0 private labels, right? So when we started doing private labels, a little bit of manufacturing, we realized we need people with experience. It's okay to burn a little bit of money when you are in an aggregation business, but if you go wrong in manufacturing, you can burn the entire world, right? So when those kind of challenges came in is when we started looking for outside talent. It was damn tough.
Yeah, because you already have a culture. It's firing, 7 years at it, right? Everyone is together. All of a sudden, you have to induce talent which are experienced, different kinds, with different experiences, cultural.
Very difficult. Very difficult. People used to, the new guys used to come in, used to get quick nicknames like Budho. Budho for the international guys means oldie. Oldie. Or they used to come with all their stories, right? There used to be storytellers, and all these young guys never wanted to listen to those Budho stories, which they couldn't relate to. And stuff like that. So it was very difficult, particularly from a cultural standpoint. But then we found a quick hack. Won't bore you with it. We'll happily hang around after this in case you want the quick hack. In fact, we figured out 2 very quick hacks.
No, I agree. I think initially, and sadly, the fact remains that many of our initial team members, sometimes the organization sort of outgrows the team. So you have to also sort of, as a founder, responsibly understand that, like when we went into manufacturing, like he said, we had to hire a lot from the industry. So you may today have a young guy and you may have grown him in-house as a leader, but an initial hiring was easy because it was aspirational. You could show a path to your growth as a organization, give him more share-based sort of, ESOPs, and you sort of, guide him towards the eventual growth the organization will go to. Later on, when you're getting more experienced people who are coming from large organizations,
As I was asking,
yeah, so
right? How do you value those shares?
yeah, you have to sort of create value for them, and they're and I think there's also an aspirational part of them building something larger. So maybe you don't take the top guy in an organization, but you take a -1 or -2 and sort of then give him that aspect. Okay, you are in a large company, you're at a -2, and I'll give you a national, and you're at a state level, I'll give you a national role, you're a sales, sort of a CXO of only sales, I'll give you a CEO role of a product category. Sort of you sort of aspirationally build that in. Maybe you don't hire the top guy, but you build a -2 guy and you sort of put him where no one in the industry would give him that position.
And Shovik, a tweak. So to Ashish's point, he was the kind of oldest in the room.
Yeah.
People were looking.
I
into,
would be one of the youngest.
Okay.
Yeah.
People were looking
Yeah.
up to him in terms of saying, okay, I'm fresh
Yeah.
at MBA, I look up to him. Now here the ties have changed. These are experienced people coming into the company.
Correct.
And you have to lead as a leader. They have to respect you equally what the other guys have done, while understanding you're a founder of sorts. So how do you
I have
manage
not
that?
faced that much of a problem. We are one of the largest concrete manufacturers in India, second largest in India today. Our CXO who heads that was the CEO of
Yeah, I know you've got a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
senior
So
talent.
you've got a lot of large people who have led CXO divisions and who are working with us. I think I have always felt India is sort of sorted that way. India have always had a lot of family businesses. I don't think any CXO in India has any problem listening to someone junior. I have always, and I think that flows from maybe the promoter culture India has had for a long period of time, where people, even you could be a CXO, but you value a promoter. And yes, maybe that value system is a little different between a promoter and a founder, because, but people value your experience, your leadership, because you built something ground up. I don't think that's, I haven't faced that problem. I haven't faced someone coming from a CXO of a large listed company coming and building us. We value the experience they bring in that category, because there's a learning curve in manufacturing. It's very, very deep learning curve, and you can't afford
Yeah.
mistakes. And if they're trying to build a brand, trying to build manufacturing, we value. But as a leader, they value you, and they understand that what risks you've taken, what calls you've taken to build a business. We have a core team, obviously, where we discuss ideas, and it's a collaborative process, to be honest.
So needed same thought, and we'll try to move fast. You also have a core group, I know. So when again you have to move to the next level, how does this core group changes? Does it change ever? Even after getting experience, it's the same core group who comes together and solve problems, or you get them augmented over a period of time?
So I basically agree with what like Assis and Souvik said. So, and and before coming back to your question, right, one thing I would like to mention here is like all of us are like kind of reimagining existing services or product lines, right, in the society, right, and many things that we are doing maybe is being done for the first time. So you won't find enough talent pool out there. So you have to groom internally, but at the same time, you need certain kind of expertise from outside also. So you need to have a like right level of balance, fine balance, right? I don't think there is any other way. And as like we, most of our like leadership team, right? Other than our NBFC head, everybody was like groomed internally, and we have not faced any kind of challenge, right? And going forward, I don't foresee that this team is won't be able to execute at least next 2 years of our plan. So, and what we encourage is like having enough integration in the ecosystem for the team, and not having any kind of insecurity, right? And a culture of extreme level of candidness. If that kind of platform and culture is like pushed, then your team will also keep upgrading, and of course there will be times जहाँ पे you need some like external intervention and somebody from outside. And if the right culture is there, right mindset is there, then the team will be totally acceptable to that, right?
No, I think similar experiences, but personally for us, we've had a lot of challenges. We've been enamored by senior external talent, especially because we work in healthcare. Indian healthcare, surprisingly, is fairly organized in some ways, especially when it comes to pharma companies and all, and extremely fragmented and disorganized in other ways when it comes to commerce. But every few years, we have this itch that we need to get industry expertise, industry leaders in. I think it's almost always turned out to be a poor decision. What we have now learned,
Poor decision.
poor decision, yeah, seniors,
Getting
yeah.
seniors.
Yeah, and so what we have, at least I have, and as an organization, we have learned the hard way after many years is there's an optimal level at which you bring people in, at which point they have learned enough but not too much. They are willing to use what they have learned, but also are humble enough to say, okay, I don't know, as Neeraj said.
Which is luckily in Shobik's case.
Yeah, because like Neeraj said, we are building existing services but reimagining them. And if you do not have the humility to reimagine and say, ये तो ऐसे ही चलता था, it will work the same way here, then it doesn't work. And then the other problem we face is that, again, I don't know what you mean by candor or candidness, but we are extremely candid. And a lot of very senior talent just can't handle it.
Actually, I can do a 1 hour discussion or being candid as a founder.
Just can't handle it. Yeah. Just can't handle it. And for me, it is I have limited time. If I can just be honest upfront, then it gets everything else out of the way. I'm just talking about work, but a lot of people don't get it, and I don't subscribe to this philosophy of praise in public and reprimand in private. I'm like, there's no praise, there's no reprimand. Everything happens out here. Let's just get it over with. And people don't get it. So I think where we've ended up is that we feel there's an optimal level at which you can bring experience in, which is probably mid-senior level, maybe 5-7 years experience, and then you just groom them internally. They're much more willing to learn. They're willing to put in the hard work, etc., and then go and become the next generation
What Neeraj
leaders.
said and what possibly Ashish said. Great. No, actually, these are valuable lessons. I can go on for hours, as Ashish mentioned. And Ashish likes to talk. So, and he really has insights. And it's very difficult to get him in public forums. In fact, you'd not believe both of them, Ashish and Shovik, are from same industry. They're meeting for the first time ever, right? So leave alone speaking together. So, and I know the synergies they have built in over a period of time. So it's been sheer pleasure knowing all of you. Learned a lot. This is the beautiful industry we are in. We can fund all of you in the similar lines of business. And any last line you guys want to say and leave the audience with?
If you're taking money from Ishpreet, make him do it super quick.
Shovik.
I think eventually, as a founder, you have to build what you want to build. There are multiple stakeholders and multiple individuals who will try to evaluate you in multiple different ways. Let's just go and just don't get confused in that. It's all I'll sort of leave for the founders.
Thank you. Neeraj.
Actually, I would like to thank you again for inviting me here, and it has been pleasure working with you for last 5 to 6 years, and multiple times you have helped us anything in our journey, and I hope that we keep further strengthening our partnership.
Again, thank you for having me, but I think what you build for the customer is what values, what matters most.
Well said. Thank you, guys. Thank you.